And so I'm sitting there, you know, oming, going through what I'm going through. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's time. I got to push. And my midwife is like, that's so amazing, but do not push. Ma'am, what do you mean don't push? Hi everyone, my name is Krishana. Welcome to my channel or welcome back. I am a writer, media strategist, and content creator based in South Atlanta, and I relocated here recently from my hometown of Baltimore. I'm also a wife and a mom of now two. So I have a 3-year-old and now I have a newborn, and I call them M and M because both of their names start with M. Let's get into it. So as I've been talking about on my channel for the last few episodes, I planned a home birth, a natural and medicated home birth in my home for my second labor and birth experience. My first was at a hospital in DC, and I was induced and ended up eventually getting an epidural at about 8 centimeters. One day I will do a video comparing those two birth stories, but I was very excited to do something different this time and have a unmedicated home birth in the comforts of my own home. And so this, we're gonna do a little bit of story time. So I have some notes here, so if I'm looking down, that is why I wanted to make sure that you guys get all, and I mean all of the details. And then of course, if I left anything out or if you all still have questions or something is unclear, please feel free to leave a question or comment in the comment section below. So the morning of my due date, so I was 40 and 0, so 40 weeks and 0. My actual due date was July 14th. And that morning I woke up around 5 or 6 a.m., which is very much not on trend for me. I would say a normal time for waking up is probably 7:30, 8, depending on if I'm going to work out that morning. So maybe as early as 7 o'clock, but like a 5 o'clock wake up is early. And so my toddler came into our bedroom around that time. And a lot of times he comes into our bedroom and I can go back to sleep, no problem. But for whatever reason, that morning, I could not get back to sleep. Like I just laid there and laid there and laid there and my eyes were wide open. And so eventually I decided I'm just gonna get up. Like I'm not gonna continue to try to lay here. There's no point. And I actually decided to come into the space, into my sunroom and shoot a YouTube video. And so I did that for probably about an hour or two, got my coffee, just kind of was mellowing out, did a little meditation. And then around 8:10, I went to the bathroom and I wiped, I had what they call a bloody show. So that's basically when you wipe mucus with blood on it. And so for my midwife, that was one of the telltale signs of labor, and I was supposed to call her immediately. So for her, the telltale signs was like bloody show, your water breaking, I can't even remember the other ones. So I'll list them on the screen here if I actually remember them. But those were all the signs that you needed to call her immediately. And so I gave her a call and told her that I got a bloody show. And so that day we were supposed to have a midwife appointment and a prenatal appointment anyway. So I had a 10 a.m. prenatal appointment. My midwife also had another mom in Georgia who was also pregnant at the same time as me. And so she was supposed to see me at 10 a.m. and see that person at 4. And when I called her, she said, oh, and I told her, well, I have this mucus plug has definitely come out. I have a bloody show, but I'm not experiencing any contractions. So instead of you coming at 10 and then just being here waiting around, why don't you see the other mom first? And if my contractions start up before then, I'll give you a call. She said, okay, great. And she told me that after I had my first 3 contractions that were pretty consistent back to back, to give her a call back. So I said, okay, I will, no problem, sure. So this is actually where things get funny. So I go several hours. Did some things around the house, got my little one ready, and then told my husband, like, why don't we go take a walk in the neighborhood? Because if like, this is really it, I want to start getting the baby in a good position, and walking is always great. And I needed to do like some exercise and working out for that day anyway. And I think I also did some like yoga that morning just to kind of stretch. So after eating breakfast and all of that, this is now in the afternoon, maybe around like 12. And so we decided to take a walk in the neighborhood. And as we are walking, every like 5 minutes, I'm stopping and starting to get like some pretty severe contractions. And so I'm like, okay, I need to go ahead and call the midwife because I had been having contractions on and off all morning, but they weren't the consistent 3 that she was naming. So at around 1, I started having some like contractions that like kind of stop you. Like you put your arm and you like, I need to take a second to breathe through this. And so I was like, okay, let's call the midwife. So I picked up my phone, ring, 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 called the midwife, no answer. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'll give her a call back. She's probably still seeing the other mom from this morning because when you have a midwife, it's very different than going to a traditional doctor's visit. So at the doctor's office, you might spend an hour and a half in the waiting room, but then only see your doctor for 15 minutes. Midwife appointments are not like that. Like when they get there, you're probably hanging out with them for a good hour. I think the shortest appointment time I've ever had with my midwife was an hour, mostly because she's asking questions. We're just like being in community with each other. And so it's a very, very different experience. And so I'm like, she's probably still at the other mom's house. Like, not a big deal. We'll give her a call back in a little bit. So we did our full walk about an hour after that. And we decided, let's go get something to eat. So we got in the car and drove to get food. And then as I'm getting food, the contractions are getting worse, like progressively worse. And so at this point, I was timing the contractions. And they were like lasting for over a minute and were coming like every 4 minutes, which is, you know, like the app a few times was like, you should consider maybe starting to pack your bags. Like maybe not going to the hospital yet, but packing your bags. So at this point, I'm like, okay, let me try to get in contact with my midwife. I'm not actually that concerned because I know that I'm still a long ways away because I've done this dance before and I'm, you know, a long ways away from transition, but I just want her to know and give her an update. So I'm calling her, ring, 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 going to voicemail. My husband's calling her, ring, 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 it's going to voicemail. So I'm like, what is happening? So I'm like, you know what? Maybe she doesn't have service because some parts of Georgia are very rural where we are in the area, especially some of the parts that she visits. So I'm like, let me text her. She's an older woman, but like she texts us. So let me text her and just give her a little update. Hour and a half goes by, no response. Meanwhile, I'm now back at the house, like full on moaning, going through contractions. And so for my dealing with contractions, I did something very different than my last pregnancy. So I had did the Bradley method for breathing last time, and as well also practiced 2 other breathing methods. So like the traditional method that you see on the internet, like the old school Lamaze. I did the Bradley, which is more of a yoga breath. So we used to breathe in and then to breathe out with a lot of vocalization. And then there's a third one, which is more of a bearing down when you're actually in the transition phase or ready to breathe the baby out. And I'm not doing any of those. Like none of those are working for the contractions because they're starting to pick up. So I did a doula certification class through Mama Glow in 2020. And one of the things that came up was actually learning how to do what is basically called like vocalization. So like a hum or a om while you are in contractions. And so when I tell you those ohms became my best friend, okay? So me and the ohms, we was here. And so the entire time I'm doing my breathing and then when I tell you that changed the game, just that vocalization, one, it opens up different chakras in your body and aligns you and just like really takes some of the edge off of the contractions. It's a long breath. And so it gives your body something to focus on and just like really aligns you in the space. So I am in the house at this point, like, you know, dancing around. I have my music playing. I think at this point we're listening to like reggae, because I had a whole bunch of different playlists queued up and reggae was my go-to playlist, let me say. So I'm listening to like reggae from the time that I was in undergrad. So I'm like dancing around the house. My husband is looking at me like I'm out of my mind. But also I'm stopping to do these ohms because I'm having these like really intense contractions. Again, in between these contractions and dancing around the house, I'm still picking up the phone, ring, calling my midwife because sis is not answering. So about 30 minutes later, around like 7 o'clock, I get a phone call from my midwife, like, oh my goodness, how's everything going? Mind you, she's low key and chill. But for me at this point, my anxiety is through the roof because while I 100% think that I can like push at home, no problem, fine. I'm like, we don't have scissors to cut this umbilical cord. We don't have anything to tie it off with. Like, we can definitely go through this process without her. Like, I also didn't have a doula this pregnancy. So I knew that me and my husband will be fine. But like, there's other things that need to be done. Like, are you okay? You're also an older lady. Like, where are you, ma'am? So when I finally talked to her, she was like, oh, how are your contractions? I'm like, ma'am, this is speeding up. Like, I think that it is time. She was like, oh, okay. What time you want me to leave out? So I told her, she lives about an hour away. So I told her to leave out of her house around 8. So she'll be here 8:30, and she'll be here around 9:30, which I will say was the perfect time for her to arrive. If she had got here any earlier, she would have just been here in the space. Like, and I will say that she has an amazing energy and definitely like creates a, real radiance in the space, but also me and my husband were vibing up until then. So like I didn't really need her in the space. It was more so like, answer the phone, ma'am, you have gone missing. So that actually brought my anxiety level down a lot because up until that point, while I had definitely been able to like vocalize and breathe, I was definitely experiencing stress. And that was the only stressful part of my pregnancy, just more so like, where's my midwife? Because we live very close to a hospital, but I had no intention of going to the hospital. Like, we did pre-register there just in case some complication did happen, but like, I didn't have a doctor on standby. I really wasn't still going to an OBGYN, like, was not trying to just pop up at a hospital. Like, no, I intended to have a home birth, so I needed sis to figure out where she was. So she finally got to our house around 9 p.m. And I will say the time she got there at 9 p.m., I had been at this point, basically between the bedroom and I think maybe even had gotten on the toilet at this point, trying to get through the contractions because they were starting to like over the last maybe 30, 45 minutes get pretty intense where like, I really needed to concentrate. I didn't really want to talk to anybody. My husband was starting to give me ice. So at this point, he actually filled up our bathtub. So we did have a pool that we purchased and it was in our sunroom to be able to use for birth. But my husband actually didn't end up picking up the right connective piece for the faucet. So he would have had to stand there the entire time and hold the hose up to the faucet. And if anybody's ever been in labor, if it's just you and your partner, like, nah, you're not going nowhere to do nothing. Like, you're going to be with me the entire time because I'm in pain. And so, especially at this point, because nobody else was there and it was the two of us kind of going through this practice together, I was like, just fill up the tub in our bathroom, like in our owner suite bathroom, because we have a pretty decent sized tub. It's not a jacuzzi tub, but like it's larger than a traditional tub that's in like standard houses. So he filled the tub up and I had literally just gotten in the tub when the midwife got there. Like, I am starting to like shake a little bit, like definitely it's getting extreme. So from 9 p.m. to 12 p.m., the midwives, so let me go back for a second. The midwife's assistant also got there maybe 45 minutes after she did. So there's the four of us. And then my mother-in-law was also here. She was upstairs with our son watching him. So between 9 and 12 p.m. was the worst of it. When I tell you, I thought it was time to meet the king. Like, it was a glorious and beautiful, but like out of body experience. And so we talk, humans are also mammals, and I really felt that, urge when they said like your body knows how to do it, like just rocking back and forth and like really just letting myself be fully in the space. that is how I felt. So during that time period, I went into the tub. I got out the tub, I sat over the toilet, and I was surprised that I actually wasn't that comfortable in the toilet this time. So that was my go-to place for my last labor. That's where I was for most of it. This time, no, wasn't feeling it. I was laying on the bed for a little bit. And then, I don't know if anybody's ever like, I loved being at home for my home birth. I definitely had like all of my products down, like the pads and stuff. But being on top of my bed, like that wasn't the most comfortable either. So then I'm laying over the side of the bed. It just was a lot. So eventually I ended up back in the tub. And so I'm like leaning over the tub, fighting for my life through these contractions. And I won't say fighting for my life because it was so beautiful, but the contractions get so intense, especially when you're about to get to transition. And I got to transition around midnight, that I'm just trying to get a little bit of sleep in between these contractions. So I'm literally like leaned over the side of the tub, like trying to like just steady myself in between these contractions, because they were massive waves, and all of my contractions had 2 waves with them. So I would get to the first wave and be like, okay, we're almost done, and then you get hit with that second wave. And so along with the vocalization that I did, my midwife gave me kava kava, which definitely helps you kind of like ride the waves, as well as I think ashwagandha, which is another herb supplement that also like helps with some of the pain management. And so that's pretty much, you know, you're not getting an oxygen machine like laughing gas, because they don't really do that in the US anyway. You're not getting epidural. Like, it is you and those contractions going full throttle every single time, toe for toe. It's like a boxing ring. Like, we're going toe for toe, round for round every single time. And so I'm riding the waves, and then eventually at midnight I start to transition. And when I tell you, I got to the point, so you get to this point of transition where most mamas, most birthing people say they can't. Like, you hit this wall and the contractions are coming, and you're so quickly, and you're not getting any downtime between them, and you're like, I can't do this. And I said I can't twice. And I had to stop myself, because like, no, Krishana, you 100% can do this. You got so close last time, and this was the part last time that I gave up and got the epidural. Like, I was so close. When you're at the point that you're saying you can't, you're about to meet your baby. It's the end of the road. And so you're at that point where you might as well just like bear down and mentally prepare yourself. So at that point, I'm telling my baby and speaking like to my baby, like, it is time, baby. Like, it is time to meet you. It's time for you to come earthside. I'm so ready and so excited, but like, it's time. Like, I need you to get in your position. It is time. So at this point, I'm like getting in and out the tub, trying to really like move different positions to try to get the baby in the optimal position to come out. Like, that was the only thing that was important to me. And in between these contractions, like making sure that the baby was where they needed to be to come out, and to come out quickly, because your girl was spent and through. And so at that point, I'm in the tub, and I finally felt the thing that everybody talks about, which is the ring of fire and the urge to poop. And so I did not experience this last time because I had epidural. And so I was pretty numb from the waist down. I experienced like none of that pain. I definitely had some sensations, but didn't experience the ring of fire or urge to poop. And so I'm sitting there, you know, oming, going through what I'm going through. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's time. I got push. And my midwife was like, that's so amazing, but do not push. Ma'am, what do you mean don't push? Like, I'm looking at her confused. Like, you're speaking nonsense to me. I'm finna push this baby out. It is a wrap. It's done. We're over. Like, I'm gonna do my baby. It's a wrap for this. And she's like, no, you absolutely cannot push. You do not want to tear. You don't want to rip. You need to breathe your baby down. Y'all. Okay. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can do this. I just need to take my time, because I also didn't want to tear. I had a small 1st-degree tear and needed light stitching with my first time. And it was generally fine. I didn't have any complications from that. But with the home birth, like I didn't want to tear. Like, that was important that I didn't tear. What was the point of like being in the tub and doing all these things to then tear? So I am in the tub, kind of kneeling over the water and slowly back and forth the entire time. And when I tell you, I did not push once, and my baby literally slipped out. it was amazing experience. Like, I would tell all mommies, it's tough, but don't push. You don't need to. Your body will do what it needs to do. Your body knows how to do it. You actually don't need to push whatsoever to bring your baby birth side. Anybody who tells you something different is a liar. Do not believe them. You do not have to push, I promise you. And so I didn't. And my baby came out. And the midwife put my baby on my chest. And it was the most beautiful bonding experience ever. And when I tell you that I've never been more alert, so when I had the baby in the hospital, I was on so many different like drugs and IVs and blah, 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 and medications that I was kind of just looking at my baby like, oh, what's this? But with this home birth, because I was completely present in the moment the entire time, I was like, oh, this is beautiful. Like, look at my child. I'm looking him over. He looks so beautiful. He's crying a little bit. I hear his first cries. I mean, there was nothing more lovely. And even immediately afterwards, I was in no pain, 0 pain. Yes, I still had to push the placenta out. Yes, there's some like contraction that you keep feeling afterwards, but like, fully moving around, fully mobile, back doesn't hurt, stomach doesn't hurt, uterus doesn't hurt, holding my baby, moving around. Like, I felt like I could have went to then after that do a 5K marathon. Like, that is how amazing I felt after my home birth. And I really speak that over anybody else who went to home birth. Like, to have it and to just feel good and be alert and be fully in your body and present, it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to experience. And I'm so blessed that I was able to experience that. I feel like I worked very hard for it. It's something that I wanted very badly. I managed my weight the entire time. I made sure that I ate well. I took tons of supplements, my iron supplements, calcium supplements. I also did sea moss. I made sure I drank my teas. Like, I did all the things I needed to do to ensure that I could bring this baby earthside the way I wanted to. And my birth went almost chef's kiss, picture perfect. It was an amazing experience. And I'm gonna insert a few pictures from the birth experience. It was truly just beautiful and amazing. We did some skin to skin immediately during. So the placenta was still in. I'm still in the bathtub, and we did some immediate skin to skin. I think I also tried to get him to latch immediately while we were still in the tub as well. And then we did not do immediate cord clamping. So my midwife waited until the blood stopped pulsating through the cord, and then clamped and then cut the umbilical cord. And the entire experience was beautiful. We then weighed the baby, did length measurements as well as like head circumference, and then me and the baby just kicked it and breastfed and just hung out. And honestly, truly, it was just a great experience overall. Definitely 10 out of 10 would recommend to anybody who wants to have a home birth. And I'll tell you that I felt like I could do anything, accomplish or conquer anything after that. We talk about having babies and your children, your offspring being a rebirth for you as a mama, and I 100% agree. It feels like that. It feels like a rebirth. I feel like a different person after that. Just the calmness, the fact that I feel like I could do anything. Like, there's nothing in this world that I cannot do. I birthed my baby on my own, caught them in my hands in the water, and brought them to my chest. You can't tell me shit. Nothing. Period, Pooh. Nothing. I hope you very much enjoyed this little talk about my positive birth experience. This video is a teeny bit longer than what I expected it to be. If you have any questions about my birth experience, please, please, please do not be hesitant at all to drop a comment down below. I will definitely work on answering those. And I think in a future video, I'm going to talk a little bit about a comparison of this birth experience to my birth experience in the hospital, because when I tell you I have no qualms about it. There's 0 things I would do differently. There's nothing I wish happened that didn't happen. Like, sis got the experience. I definitely got the labor experience and birth experience that I wanted for my baby. And I hope that if I continue to have any additional children, same birth experience is what I want. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you joining me for this conversation. Don't forget to please like and subscribe. And if you know anybody who's interested in having a home birth, please, please, please share this video with them. I want to hear stories of other Black women and Black birthing people having home births at their homes. And so if you have any questions, again, let me know. Bye.